Hey guys, how's it going? I am Danconia and welcome back to the Overwatch League Roundup. Yes, Stage 3 is officially over. It's gone. We are 3/4 of the way through the regular season. Would you believe? That's gone so quick. But without further ado, let's crack into some fixtures. I know we have our title matches, I know we have our champions, but we're going to cover first our regular results, because they still all matter, right? Now, the first game was Philadelphia Fusion taking on the Dallas Fuel. This had big implications for Fusion, right? Fusion could still get into the playoffs, but they needed to win both of their games, and they needed to win them comprehensively. They beat Dallas Fuel 3-1. It would have been better if it was 4-0, but Fusion get the job done, they get the win they needed. Florida Mayhem taking on Los Angeles Gladiators. Gladiators were not sealed in their playoff place, but the win over the Florida Mayhem, 3-0 to the Gladiators, did not do them any harm, let's say that. This was a very good result for the Gladiators, and it kind of put a lot of barriers up to other teams getting into the playoffs. One of them was Shock. They beat the Houston Outlaws, but it's not enough to get them into the playoffs. They needed Gladiators to lose both of their games, and they didn't. So unfortunately, although Shock are so heavily improved, Shock did not make it to the playoffs. But I think it's looking good for Shock in any case. Shock have looked so much better this stage than they have previous stages. Super and Sinatra have proved magnificent signings, even though they couldn't play them early on in the season. It's looking good for Shock. It's looking good. It's looking up for you Shock fans. So they beat Houston Outlaws 3-2. Houston Outlaws on a bit of a downturn right now. Houston really hitting some problems. Then Shock were in action again the next day, taking on the Florida Mayhem, and they 4-0'd the Mayhem. And this is what I mean. Shock of last stage would not have 4-0'd the Mayhem. This is a really good signs for the Shock. Real good improvement. And I'm really pleased because I think Shock are a pretty good team. They just needed to get things together. They needed to get all their players up to age, and now we're seeing the benefits of that. Boston Uprising. Oh, Boston Uprising. The unbeaten Boston Uprising take on the Los Angeles Valiant. Los Angeles Valiant were on an unbeaten streak until recently, when they've gone downhill slightly. Boston Uprising win this 3-2. Both the teams were in the playoffs anyway, so I think Valiant had to win a map to absolutely guarantee it, but it was never really in doubt. Both teams are in the playoffs. Talking of playoffs, Dallas Fuel taking on the New York XL. XL, another team that were in the playoffs, 4-0 to the XL. No surprises here. Dallas Fuel looking absolutely bloody awful. No surprises there. Then we have the Gladiators in action again. Gladiators, if they won this, or they took 2 maps in this, they guaranteed their playoff place. But it's against the Boston Uprising. Yeah, Boston Uprising. Boston Uprising win it 3-1. Boston Uprising create history by being the only team so far in the Overwatch League to go unbeaten in a stage. 10-0. Magnificent display from Boston. Fantastic. They were not looking like this team before we started the Overwatch League. They weren't even looking like it in stage 1. Boston have had one hell of a stage. Well done to the Uprising. An unbeaten team for the first time in one stage. But Gladiators took a map, but it didn't seal them their playoff place, right? As it was standing, Philadelphia Fusion were the last game of the day, and they were taking on the Valiant. If they 4-0'd the Valiant, it would go to a tiebreaker game between the Gladiators and the Fusion. If the Fusion 4-0'd the Valiant. But we'll get over that later. New York XL already in the playoffs, taking on the Shanghai Dragons. Shanghai are looking improved, and yes, we do keep saying this, but they are looking improved. They take a map off XL, but it's 3-1 to the XL. No real surprises there, but Shanghai looking improved, being able to take maps off pretty much anyone right now. London Spitfire have had an off stage. So have the Seoul Dynasty. Let's be honest, Seoul Dynasty have not looked that good this stage. But a new look Seoul Dynasty has turned up on our doorsteps. Forget Miro. No. Ru Jae Hong. The Anaran Zen Wonder Boy is now on main tank for the Seoul Dynasty. And it looks like a really good choice. To be quite honest, Wu Jae-hong on main tank is actually, if you want to move someone to a main tank, he is probably one of the best people because he has the knowledge of the game. He knows to when to go in and go out, but it's also because he's such a good support. He knows when to peel, when to dive back into his support line to support them when the counter dive comes in from the opposition. Fantastic move. It doesn't get them the win though. London Spitfire is a bogey team for Seoul Dynasty going back to GC, Busan and Lunatic High. 3-2 to Spitfire. But it was a very good game. Very good game. Moving on from that, we have the Shanghai Dragons in action again and the Spitfire in action again. Shanghai Dragons have a customary thing where they take a map off people at the moment, and they do the same to London Spitfire, but again, it's a 3-1. I would say 3-1 against Excel and then 3-1 against Spitfire, considering you're an unbeaten team against the top team and against the third team in the overall standings. 3-1 is not a bad result for Shanghai. Shanghai have looked so much better. I'm hoping, going into the first week of Stage 4, bearing in mind there's a lot of changes coming in for Stage 4, do bear that in mind, this Stage 4 could be completely different. I think Shanghai can beat Dallas, which will be the first game of Stage 4 for Shanghai. I think Shanghai have a good chance of getting their first win next stage. I'm putting it out there, but I've said that before, so let's go into that. Houston Outlaws in action again, along with the Seoul Dynasty. Houston are on a real big downturn right now. They get 4-0'd by Seoul. Seoul looking ever improved with this Wu Jae-hong and main tank thing. I really like it. I really like it. We get to see more of Wu Jae-hong. I don't know what this means for Wu Jae-hong playing for Korea in the Overwatch World Cup, because if he does stick to this main tank role, will Korea employ him as a support? Because there are a lot of good Korean main tanks. Let's be honest. Gesture, Fisher. Is he going to ask them and out of the Korean team? I really don't know. And then the last game of the regular fixtures of Stage 3. Los Angeles Valiant taking on the Philadelphia Fusion. The last big game which would have playoff implications. Could Philadelphia Fusion 4-0 the Valiant and take it to a decider? No. They couldn't even get the win. Valiant beat Fusion 3-2. This seals the playoff places as Boston Uprising, Seed 1, New York Excelsior, Seed 2, LA Valiant, Seed 3, and LA Gladiators, Seed 4. We could get a battle of LA. What is wrong with me today? We could get a battle of LA for the playoffs. We'll get into that though. This meant the Boston Uprising, as the #1 seed, had the choice of who they played in the semi-final. They played the Gladiators. They decided to play the Gladiators, and this meant that the Valiant would have to take on XL. So if we wanted an LA Gladiators versus LA Valiant Battle of LA, it would be the final. But we're not going to go there yet. We're going to look at the standings. Nah, debated. Right. Interesting, right? The Boston Uprising, as we know and as I said just now, secured that impeccable record in Stage 3. 10 wins, 0 losses, 31 maps won, 13 lost, and 1 tied. Boston Uprising are #1 for Stage 3. New York Excel sealed up that second place with only 1 loss to the Boston Uprising. Valiant are in third with a 7-3 record. Gladiators in fourth with a 6-4 record. On a tie with San Francisco Shock in fifth, but Shock had the worst map differential by 5, so Gladiators got that 4th place. In sixth, we had the recovering London Spitfire. They had a very bad start to the stage, but they ended on a 5-5 record. Birdring is returning from injury pretty soon. Hureg is looking better than he was at the start of the stage, so London are looking improved. As are the Seoul Dynasty, who were a 3-5 record. At one point during the stage, Seoul Dynasty finished 7th on that 5-5 record, along with Fusion in 8th, who were on a 5-5 record. Fusion and Dynasty were actually on exactly the same record with +1 map differential, but slightly different map wins, map losses, and London were on a +3 map differential, taking that 6th spot. Houston down in 9th with a downturn in form with a 4-6 record. Florida in 10th with a 2-8 record. Dallas Fuel in 11th with a 1-9 record. And of course, Shanghai Dragons, still without that win, on a 0-10 record in 12th place. Unfortunate. I really want to see Shanghai pick up a win at some point. We really need it, don't we? Then we move on to our overall standings. New York Excel obviously still on top with that 27-3 record, plus 68 map differential. This means that they have now secured their season playoff place, because they will not lose enough games to fall out of it now. We weren't really expecting them to. Boston Uprising are in 2nd with a 22-8 record. London Spitfire are in 3rd with a 20-10 record. This win, London's win over Seoul, gave them a little bit of a cushion over Seoul in 4th, who have a 19-11 record. 5th, we have the Los Angeles Valiant with a 18-12 record, who are joint with an 18-12 record with Philadelphia Fusion in 6th. Philadelphia Fusion suffering on their map differential, which is quite a lot worse than Valiant's is. That is your season playoff places as it stands. Houston Outlaws are just outside of this on a 16-14 record, along with the Gladiators on the same record in 7th and 8th. Houston have a better map differential than Fusion. This works in their favour, but Gladiators don't. Shock in 9th with a 12-18 records are not out of it yet. They are on a -14 map differential. It's very unlikely that Shock get into the playoffs, but it's still possible. It's still possible, but it's very unlikely. The people who cannot get into the playoffs are Dallas Fuel in 10th with a 6-24 record, equal with the Florida Mayhem in 11th. These two are now out of it. They cannot reach season playoffs. Their season overall is over. They just have to compete for stage 4. Shanghai Dragons obviously were already out of it. They have a 0-30 record in 12th. They have 105 map losses this season. -88 map differential. Will they get a -100 differential? Possibly. Depends what we see from Shanghai in the next stage. That is your overall standings. That is the end of the regular part of the roundup. Then we move on to the playoffs. So, playoffs. The first game was Los Angeles Valiant taking on the Boston Uprising. The unbeaten Boston Uprising, we have to say. And at this point, did we ever doubt the Boston would beat the Gladiators? What surprised me about these semi-finals is that they weren't that close. Gladiators got 3-0'd by Boston in the best of 5 sets, so we didn't play the last 2 maps. And Boston advanced through to the final. Obviously, it was Boston's choice to play Gladiators. They obviously saw that Gladiators were weaker than the other opponents they wanted to take on. This secures Boston at least 25 grand, because they are now in the playoffs and playoff final, and second place will get 25 grand and first place will get 100. So the second semi-final meant it was New York Excel taking on Valiant, which was the leftovers that Boston didn't choose. This again was a 3-0. Both LA teams looking a par below Boston and Excel, you have to say, I think. Excel looked really good. Really, really good. And Valiant just couldn't compete. They couldn't compete with Excel. And to be quite honest, when Boston and New York Excel are on their game, or at the top of their game, they can't compete with them. I don't think anyone can, to be quite honest with you. Perhaps the London Spitfire in stage 1 could. But not really anything else. So this meant a New York Excel Boston final, which I suppose we all kind of expected and kind of wanted, right? And the map pool changed and Volskaya came back for Boston, which is obviously good news for Boston. Boston unbeaten on that map. But this game, in terms of maps played, was not close. 3-0 to Excel. Excel are stage 3 winners. Again, because they were stage 2 winners. So your winners are stage 1 in London Spitfire. Stage 2 and 3 are New York Excel. Boston put up a fight, but Excel were on a different planet in that game. They really were. Sabiobi was popping off left, right and centre. So was Jajonak. So was Libero. They all were. Let's not beat around the bush here. Boston couldn't compete in the end. And it's Boston's first loss in 15 or something stupid like that. It was 4 maps, not 3 maps though. Excel didn't beat Boston on the 3rd map, which was Volskaya. It was a draw. 3-3. It kind of ends Boston's winning run on Volskaya, but it also means that Boston are still unbeaten on Volskaya in 11. So... or something stupid like that anyway. So Boston are still looking very good. And as I said on Twitter after the match, Boston lost to Excel in the final. That's nothing to be sniffed at, to be honest. Excel are a fantastic team. They are the best in the world right now. I don't think you can argue with that. But what Boston have done this stage, going unbeaten throughout the stage, they beat Excel during the regular fixtures. I don't think you can argue that it's been a fantastic stage for Boston. Fantastic stage for Boston. And they've put themselves in prime position in 2nd place in the overall standings to take a season playoff place. Which, you know, at the start of the season we really weren't expecting Boston to be up there. We were expecting Boston to be below Shock. Perhaps even below Florida. So, this has been a fantastic stage for Boston. So congratulations to the NYXL for their stage 3 win. And looking ahead to stage 4, everything can change. Because we have a new patch, a new meta, a new hero, and a new map pool. King's Row's back, I believe. And... ooh, Oasis is back in the rotation, but it's not the tiebreaker map. It is the regular control map. But, obviously, the next stage is about 8 days away. 8-9 days away. There will be a league roundup before the next stage starts. There we will go over the fixtures for week 1 of stage 4. Believe it or not, we're in that stage 4 now. We'll go over the map pool and we'll go over the meta changes. Oh boy. If you're a dive team and they start playing the meta that we're thinking they might play, dive teams might well struggle in stage 4. And I'm talking about you, Boston. You, Fusion. LA, Valiant. LA Gladiators. All like this dive. Oh dear. But that's going to be it for this week. I will be back next week. It will be a bit of a different video. There will be no results, but there will be fixtures. There will be meta talk. There will be stage 4 introduction talk. So, for now, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, give it a like, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you next week. See you then.